Hi guys, welcome to Code Explodes. My name is John, I'm a veteran programmer. I've been programming for about 15 years, and today I'm going to teach you all you need to know about FastAPI. So first of all, just quickly, what is an API? An API is an interface between two software systems. So for example, if you created an airline and you wanted to sell your flights on a flight booking website, then you might create an API that the flight booking websites can connect to, and then that allows them to list the flights and to book flights. So it's a way of like gluing together software systems. It's very, very useful, very common in the software industry. Alrighty, let's get to it. So, first of all, I want to create a virtual environment. Now, you don't have to do this, but it is a good idea. A virtual environment is like creating a copy of Python. That means that when I install new Python modules, they won't pollute my main Python installation. Instead, they'll go in this copy, which is specific to this project. So how do we do that in modern Python? We type Python -m for module, venv, then the name of your virtual directory, which I will call virtual. Spell it right. Okay, that is done. You can see it's created a directory called virtual. Now I need to activate my virtual environment. I do that by pressing dot and then running a script in virtual bin activate. And you can see that this has changed from base to virtual, the name of my virtual environment. So I know that I'm now in this virtual environment. So the next step is to install FastAPI. And to do that, I'm going to use pip. So I'm going to type pip install FastAPI. Okay, while that's installing, I'm going to start coding. So the first thing I want to do is import the FastAPI library. So I'm going to say from FastAPI import FastAPI. Now this is a class, this FastAPI, so I need to create an instance of this class. So we're going to say app equals FastAPI, open close bracket. Okay, so I'm going to create an airline API, as we spoke about earlier. So what might an airline want to do? Well, the first thing might be to list out flights. So first we need some flights. Now in a production system, I would obviously create a database and store all the flight information in that database. But for this example, I'm going to store it directly in my code. So let's create a variable, flight db. This is going to be a list of dictionaries. So in the dictionary, we'll have a source. Oops. And in this case, the source can be maybe England. We can have a destination. That can be Bali. And maybe we'll have a price. It's a long way, so 2000. Okay, so let me just create a few more flights. This one can be from New Zealand to China and from Japan to Korea. Okay, that can be cheap, that can be a bit more. Alrighty, so we've got our flights, our flight database. Now we need to create some endpoints. So an API is made up of one or more endpoints, and each endpoint will do something quite specific. For example, it might list a flight, or it might book a flight, or it might create a flight. So my first endpoint, I want to list flights. So in order to do this in FastAPI, I put the @ symbol, app, then get. Get is the type of request. Get means that I want to fetch information. In here, I'm going to put the URL of this endpoint. This is going to be list flights. Okay, so when something calls this URL, it's going to run this method here, which is list, flights. So what I return from this method is going to be returned to the user that called the API. So I'm just going to return my flights. Oops, did I spell it right? No. FlightsDB. Alrighty, so that is an API. You can see it's incredibly simple, which is why I really love FastAPI, because it is simple and it is very robust. It's well documented and it's also very fast. So I'm a big fan of FastAPI. So let's run this up and see if it works. So I'm going to type FastAPI dev, and then I'm going to give it the file name, which is main.py. And it's going to tell me that I haven't installed the FastAPI server yet. So I'm going to copy this command that it's given me, pop it in there, and then I'm going to install that FastAPI dev server. Okay, that's installed. So now I'm going to rerun my previous command, which was FastAPI dev, and the name of my file, main. And I can see you've got an error saying app is not defined. So let's see what I did wrong. So you can see my mistake. I've said app is equal to FastAPI instead of app equals FastAPI. So save that, run it again, and you can see this time it's saying it's serving the API at this address, and the API docs are here at this address. So let's switch over to the web browser and have a look. Now this is something that I really love about FastAPI. It generates all of this documentation for you automatically, which is something that a lot of other APIs don't do. And it also gives you an easy way to test and debug your API through this interface here. So this is my endpoint that I've just created, list flights. I click try, and now I can click execute. And as we expected, you can see my list of flights appears here. This is the response data. So this is useful, but maybe you don't always want to return all of the flights. Sometimes you just want to return some of the flights. So let's make it so you can pass in some data to tell it which flights you'd like. So in order to do that, I need to add a URL parameter to this. So on the end of this URL, I'm going to put source. So this is going to be where someone can pass in the source of the flights that they want. And here, this might look a bit confusing to some people. I'm going to say for f in, f for f in flights db, if f source is equal to source. Okay, and this source variable here, that's going to get passed into the function here. That source is going to be a string. Okay, so here I'm saying go through the flights DB and find the flights where the source equals the passed in source, and then return just those. That's going to filter the flights by the source. Okay, so let's save that, and then we can go and have another look. So let's refresh this so we get the latest API documentation, and you can see that now we've got a source field there. So we'll hit try it out, and let me put a source in for England. Execute, and we can see that we've got a flight from England to Bali. Great, so it works. So let's go back to our code window. So that's how we can list and search for flights. But what if we actually wanted to book the flight? because at the moment we're just retrieving data from the API, but now we want to actually send data to the API, and we want the API to store our booking. So this is going to require a new endpoint, but this endpoint is not going to be get. This is going to be post. And the URL for this new endpoint will be book flight. And then the method will be book flight. And this is going to take a flight, which is of type flight. Okay, so what is flight? So we're going to use something called Pydantic. Let's import it from Pydantic. Import main, base model. So Pydantic is a way that you can kind of describe what a post request will look like. So I'll show you, it's easier if I just show you how to use it. So we're going to create a new class that's going to represent the data that's sent to us for this API request. This class is going to be called flight. It's going to derive from base model. On this flight, we're going to have a source, which is going to be a string. We're going to have a destination, which is also going to be a string, and we're going to have a price, which will be a float. So when we call this book flight, we're going to send it a flight, which is represented by this class here. So in order to book a flight, we need to add this flight into the database. So our database is called flightdb, and we're going to append our flight. But we don't want to append the actual flight object. We want to append a dictionary with the contents of the flight, because these objects are dictionaries. They're not actually flight objects. They're not these. So we're going to go flight dot model dump, and then that will dump out the model to a dictionary. And then we want to return something to say that this has succeeded. So let's return a result, which can be okay. All right, let's test it and see if it works. So back over to the browser. So we now have two endpoints. We have this list flights and this book flight. So let's go into book flight. Let's try it out over there. And let's create a new flight. So the source can be France. The destination can be China. And the price can be 3,000. Okay, hit execute and let's see what happens. Okay, so we got what we expected, which is result okay. So let's see if this booking actually got made. And to do that, we can use our list flights endpoint. We can type in the source, which is going to be France, hit execute, and you can see that we've got the flight that we've just made. So that's how you create a simple API with FastAPI. So thanks so much for listening, guys. If you could like and subscribe, I'd be really, really grateful, because we're trying to grow this channel at the moment. But thanks for listening. We're going to put many, many more videos out like this very soon. So yeah, any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.